We're back, Lawrence. I'm very happy to introduce Cynthia Nikitin, who is the trustee for the Brunel Sculpture Garden, correct?
That is correct, Rick. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It's great to see you. You know, one of the things I'm most proud of when I was working as a tourism director for 15 years is getting to know people like yourself and one of the wonderful property you have there, an attraction. And I know there's a few people that watch this on YouTube. We were able to work with Cynthia in our advertising agency, which is now called Belo. And one of the nicest and brochures that we were able to produce with Cynthia's help is the guide to the sculptures and statues of the Brunel Sculpture Garden. I'm going to show a little picture of the brochure, and inside it has, I know it's got all kinds of all these sculptures that are on the property, and we were really happy to produce this, and we got to get you some more, right? You're running out?
Yeah, we are. Rick, that was a tremendous gift that you gave us. Our artist in residence at the time, Brian Paccioni, did all of the photographs and photographed all the sculptures. We wrote little descriptions, and they're all numbered. And what that allowed us to do is this brochure allowed us to stay open during COVID because we put them outside in a little box. And when people came, we just sort of told them to take a flyer, and it was a self-guided sculpture tour. So people could go, in their little clusters with their friends or with their dogs on a leash, and they could explore the garden without having to interact, with us. So we were able to keep the social distancing, keep people safe, at the same time that we were able to be open for the entire last year, all of, from May, Mother's Day 2020 up until today, we never had to close up. So thank you for that. That was an unexpected additional gift.
Well, it was my pleasure and our pleasure, and it's funny because the Route 28 corridor is always one of my favorite drives, and if people are, we're going to talk about the sculpture garden in a minute, but I always wondered when I drove up Route 28, I'd see this huge totem pole. And I said, what the heck is this thing? And I know that people, if you're looking for the Brunel Sculpture Garden, which is open to the public, you tell me about the hours later. It's kind of hard to talk about in relation to that big totem pole on the right-hand side of Route 28 before you get into, how far out is it from Boyceville?
Oh, it's about less than a quarter of a mile.
Right. You can't miss it. So.
Yeah, you can. We're sort of like on the main drag, but off the beaten path. And GPS sometimes sends you around the back to Brunel Drive, but we have an entrance up there as well. Yeah, so when you're driving west on Route 28, you see Steve Heller's Fabulous Furniture and Bread Alone and the Boyceville Inn and Caldwell Banker, and boom, then there you see the log cabin and the totem pole. And if you make that quick right onto Silver Road, there's a parking space just set aside for visitors right next to the log cabin. And then the tour kind of starts there and takes you up past the house up to the plateau in the back where most of the sculptures are. And when we bought the property in 1997 and, we saw the house and we just fell in love with it, and it was just a concrete house, in the middle of the woods. It was really kind of unusual on so many levels. And the real estate agent said, so what did you think about the giant sculptures in the backyard? And we're like, what sculptures in the backyard? We just fell in love with the house. We didn't realize that there were, 3 40-foot-high concrete statues and assorted small animal sculptures just up the hill. But we fell in love with those too. And we often say that it was the house that found us. Because my background is in public art and placemaking and working with communities around the country to create great public spaces. in their towns. And so that's sort of what we're doing. We're creating a community public space on our land. And my husband is the head designer at Evergreen Architectural Arts and spends most of his days drawing, sketching the interiors for churches, cathedrals, monasteries, theaters across the United States. So he's involved in conservation and preservation and restoration as well. So it really is a good fit for us.
Tell me a little bit about the history of the sculptures, and you seems like you kind of stumbled upon this, but they are beautiful.
Yeah, they are quite whimsical. They are an homage to Native American culture, tradition, and lifeways, and they remind us of the people that first walked the land, the Lenni Lenape Native tribes. This was part of their migration and trading route, and actually our log cabin was designated, I don't know by whom, as an official authentic Indian trading post. And Emile Brunel, who was the one who bought the land in 1921 and built the sculptures pretty much by himself, we think, through the 1930s. He spent much of his time when he came here in the early 1900s out west, visiting with Native Americans, collecting and purchasing their wares and blankets and beads and leathers and handcrafts. And his granddaughter Gladys ran the shop, and I continue to run into people that remember shopping there for moccasins and leather goods and chatting with Gladys. So Emile Brunel was a photographer. He founded what is now the New York Institute of Photography in 1913. And he made his fortune in many ways, but what we are sure of that he ran a series of portrait photography studios in New York and Boston and Philadelphia. He took one of his students was Betty Davis's mother. Huh. And so we have photographs that Emile Brunel took of a very, very young Betty Davis. He also did the wedding portraits for Walt Disney and his wife. And there is a photograph of Franklin Roosevelt's dog, Thala. And it's a front and a side. It almost looks like, sort of a police photograph. So we're thinking that if the dog was lost, they would be using this to find the dog. So he knew a lot of people, and he
sounds like it.
was a fascinating guy. And he built the sculptures for his own amusement when he kind of retired he let his daughters run the photo studios, and then he spent 10, 12 years, building these monumental statues out of concrete, which is not an easy process.
When people go up and tour the property and see the statues and the totem poles, what's the typical reaction?
Well, what's interesting is even though we've been here for almost 25 years and the Brunel Park and the Sculpture Garden have been really open for 3, we are just so thrilled that we get more neighbors and people that say, I've been driving up and down this corridor for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, and I never knew what was up there, or I always wondered what was up there.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is just being so pleased to be welcomed, to visit, to walk around, to actually see these amazing works of art, folk art, outsider art, self-taught art in this environment, kind of up close and personal. So that's sort of the thrill of discovery. A lot of people have told us that they feel the spiritual energy, in the land, and that's sort of our logo is walk the land, see the art, feel the spirit, spirit of the ancestors people talk about as well. And it's really, it's on Route 28, but once you're up sort of in the back and you hear the creek and the stream, it tends to have a very calming effect on people, we've noticed, especially small children.
Oh, good.
So.
Yeah, I kind of got that sense when I was there, visited you a couple times. This is Rick Remsnyder with Cynthia Nikitin, who is a trustee in the Friends of Brunel Park. Let's talk about the organization a little bit.
Sure. Well, my husband and I feel that we are really stewards of this land. I mean, we own it, but in Native traditions, you can't ever really own land. So we are stewarding it, for 7 generations. And the idea was to create a nonprofit organization that would give us a platform to be able to partner, more officially and formally with other organizations, with other community groups. It would also give us an opportunity to accept contributions and donations to help us raise money to restore and maintain the sculptures and the gardens that surround them. And it would also be a way for us to sort of announce to the public that we're open and we are running programs, and we welcome people with ideas for a workshop or a class or a lecture or, anything that they might want to do there, to give us a call and let us know. We want to be a venue. We can't do all the programming ourselves, but we are open to ideas, and suggestions. So, for example, a well-known, well-loved local yoga teacher Kathy Carey, is running yoga classes on the property from 5:30 to 6:30 on Tuesday evenings. And she and a colleague are planning on doing a forest bathing yoga workshop on Saturday, October 16th at 10 in the morning.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait for the forest bathing. So, we really are open to ideas for how people want to sort of experience our place and, the energy that they want to bring to it.
As I remember it, it's a nice space for something like that because I remember walking up the steps to your house, and then as you go a little bit further, you have the sculpture garden. Don't you have a little courtyard there where you can do things of that like that? And, do you have benches or something like that too, as I recall?
Yeah, we have benches. That is our badminton court.
Oh.
We are badminton fanatics. If anybody is listening and loves to play badminton, definitely come by. We leave our rackets and our birdies out all the time because we're trying to build a culture of badminton players as well.
Oh, good.
So that is a court. We had a poetry reading there, series of poetry readings on August 1st with Ellen Parker, who she was a well-known soap opera star on I believe it was the Guiding Light, and she's been doing readings of audiobooks. And she won an audiophile award for her reading of Mary Austin's Land of Little Rain. And Brett Barry from Silver Hollow Audio brought her to Brunel Park, and she did a live reading.
Yeah, I know Brett. He's very talented.
Yeah, and we had Carla Brundage, our first BIPOC artist in residence, did a reading, and a local poet, Pina Russell, and then our dear friend Spirit of Thunderheart performed between the readings. And it was just a wonderful afternoon. We've had film screenings there by our former artist in residence, Brian Paccioni. He did a music video as part of his artist in residency here for the Pine Grove Band, and he's done some documentaries. So he did a film screening. We've had alto sculpture exhibits up there. We're doing the yoga there. So it's a really kind of flexible space. And, it can accommodate everyone. It's like we still have a bring your own chair policy. We can accommodate, about 30 or 40 people sort of in that space, kind of. If you sit in your little cluster 6 feet away from the next little cluster, it kind of works out. So we're hoping to do more kinds of events and things next spring, including a drum making workshop. And we have another artist in residence. She's a choreographer. She's going to come. She was going to come in October, but we postponed to the spring. She's doing a site-specific dance performance there on our land. And we're also going to be partnering, I think, with Next Stage Theater, which is a theater company in Putney, Vermont. And we're going to do an exchange with a playwright in residence at Brunel Park, who will then go back to Next Stage in Putney to do the performance.
How about if people are just taking a drive up 28? When are you open to the public if they just want to come up and take a look at the garden?
Yeah, it's kind of informal. At this point, we are going to build a kiosk. I usually put out the flyers, in the guest book and the donation box at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and bring it in at about 5. So we're open daily from 1 to 5.
Okay.
If people came by yesterday, they made it right between the incredible downpours and they ran away. If the weather is inclement, there's a foot of snow or ice on the ground.
Not open.
Not really open. Don't come. And if there's snow and you've got a really small dog, just wait a little while, But generally, and we're usually around if people do have questions or want to talk with us or, engage in a more sort of intimate way. We will do that.
Where is the information available on the website?
Yeah, our website is www.brunelpark.org, BRUNELPARK.org. We have an Instagram account, which is at Brunel Sculpture Garden, and we have a Facebook page, which is Brunel Park. So people can get information there. There's more about the history. There's more about the gardens, our event listing. We have a lot of videos that people can look at. We've got sort of a list of the garden plants, sort of what's in bloom in any particular season is also on the website. There's information about our artist in residency program, information on how people can support us if they would like to do that. And just opportunities to sign up and get on our mailing list so that we can contact you and let you know when we're doing another event or activity and just kind of keep you in the loop.
One thing, Cynthia, that, by the way, if anybody wants to call in, we still have 10 minutes or so. It's 331-9255. We're talking about the Brunel Sculpture Park. It's in Boyceville, is that right?
Yeah, it's in Boyceville. Mm-hmm.
One thing I've always noted is that, a lot of people come to Ulster County and they think that the hot spots, which are, there's a lot of hot spots, tourist attractions in Ulster County. You have, coming particularly from New York City, people get off in New Paltz, and there's a lot to do in New Paltz, City of Kingston. Now, Saugerties, we were talking about that earlier this morning, about the Hudson Valley Garlic Festival. Saugerties has become a pretty hot little town. But the one thing that I think sometimes gets overlooked is the area where you are. A lot of people, they'll take 28 and they'll see the sign, take the right at what's now called the Levon Helm Highway and go into Woodstock. But if you keep going, there's a lot going on in that corridor. I was very proud of the work that County Executive Mike Hine did to establish the Shokan Rail Trail. And then, of course, you have the Brunel Sculpture Park. And then beyond that, you mentioned Bread Alone and a lot of the Boyceville Inn. And then you're going up further. Talk about some of the things that you hear from people talking about what they've done when they come to that area when they see you, when they stop off and see you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that section of Route 28 is designated as the Catskill Scenic Byway corridor.
I'm glad you mentioned that because my friend Robert Selkowitz has been hammering that home. I don't know if you know Robert.
Oh, yes, I do.
And I had Robert on the show 2 weeks ago, his 1905 auto
rally.
Rally, thank you, because I always want to call it a race, and it's not a race. But anyway, the Catskill Mountain Scenic Byway.
Yeah, there's that. Bread Alone is building an amazingly enormous new facility. They're doubling the size of their bakery and cafe, and it's going to be carbon neutral. Just completely, they're building a solar farm in the back. So Bread Alone is going to be, bigger and better than ever. But even in Shokan, you have Fruition Chocolate.
Yep. Let's not forget one of my favorite guys, Alex Stir, with the Olive Country Store.
Olive Country Store.
Great place there.
That is a little gem. That is like the perfect little wonderful country store. You can get just about absolutely anything you want in there.
Yep.
And general stores are, they're few and far between. So Olives is quite wonderful. Veggie Oasis opened recently, run by my friend Amit, which has just amazingly delicious vegetarian, Middle Eastern, and Indian
Where is that?
That is in the Winchell's Corners, where Winchell's Pizza used to be.
Okay.
And next to that they've reopened the antique store.
Oh,
so you
good.
could have lunch and look for antiques. And then go to Moose Crossing across the street. The Catskill Visitor Center is just past us a little ways, and they have a wonderful little small hike, and they have information, and they have a fire tower that you can climb up. It's open, I think, weekends until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's a really great way to get sort of oriented. And of course, the Emerson Resort and Spa is just a little bit past that road. So when people come, I tell them, all right, because our space is not that large. It's about 1.5 acres. Sometimes people spend 15 minutes. Sometimes they bring their lunch and they spend 1.5 hours. We've had a couple of Father's Day picnics there where a family, one part of the family came up from the south, another descended from Troy, and they landed in our place. People can come for 2 hours. And I say, okay, you're hungry? Go to Bread Alone, take a walk on the rail trail, check out the visitor center, go buy some chocolate. Woodstock, schmudstock. I mean, I really think Olive is a lot more going on. We're quiet, we're subtle, but there's always the tennis courts at the high school are almost always available. There's like free tennis courts on your high school. So, I feel like we're a little undiscovered gem.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And, going up further, of course, you have what I like to call the iconic Phoenicia Diner, and then you're going on further up Route 28 and get into Phoenicia, and there's some new restaurants opening there. Do you have?
Don't forget the rail bike.
Rail Explorers.
The Rail Explorers.
Yes, of course. We had Mary Joy Lou on here, one of our first shows. And have you ever been on the?
Yes.
It's an amazing 2
wonderful.
hours, isn't it?
Yeah, as long as the weather is cooperating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be tricky.
Mary Joy had been after me. They've been open now, I don't know, 6, 7 years, I like to think. And I was there we had a grand opening ceremony. And, of course, my former boss, Mike Hine, was there, and he took the ride. I never was on it until about last year. And promoting it all, what a great spot. Do you have some sort of? Have you been working with the Emerson at all on anything, or are you just kind of getting to know them?
Well, they've been really generous to us. They gave us a complimentary 1-year membership in the Ulster County Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, that's nice.
So I got to work with Jess Davis, who was your host, your previous guest.
Yep.
They also had their photographer do some wonderful photographs for us of the sculpture, and they shot a beautiful 3-minute video, which they actually have on their website.
On the Emerson website?
On the Emerson website. And we're the place they send their guests when their guests arrive before check-in time.
Oh, great.
So it's like, it's 2 o'clock, your room's not ready, go to Brunel Sculpture Garden, get a coffee, and your room will be ready. So
Great idea.
We're happy, and also guests that come to the Emerson, they send them to us to spend a little time, visiting here as well. So they've just been a wonderful partner. We feel like they've adopted us, to a certain extent. We've also started to make connections to the Al Held Foundation. Al Held was a very well-known abstract painter, very popular in the 60s and 70s. He bought an old dairy farm just right a mile from us off of Route 28, back in the early 90s. And now there's a foundation there which has gallery space, tours, exhibits. You can see his studio. You can see the amazing way he has arranged for his giant canvases to move from one part of the building to another. So we're hoping to partner with the Al Held Foundation on some artists in residence kinds of projects coming up. So they're open by appointment. You have to make an appointment. But
well,
it's
Cynthia, it's hard to believe we've gone through almost the entire half hour. I want to thank Cynthia Nikitin, for the trustee of the Brunel Friends of Brunel Park, for coming in. It was. I can't encourage people enough to come up and visit you, get in touch with Cynthia and go on the website, and you have a wonderful tourist attraction there. It was always my pleasure working with you, and continued success.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you
And
so
come
much.
back again. We'll have you on, and you can tell us about all your programs.
All right. I would love to do that. That would be a real pleasure.